Okay, we have managed to solve an equation successfully. Now we're going to step it up a notch, make things a little bit more complicated, but you're still going to be fine. Remember, we're still undoing each operation in reverse order. So if we take a look at example 2 now on page 123, our equation says 25 equals 1/4 n minus 3. Now, what can you tell me about the coefficient in this problem? What do you notice about the coefficient in this problem? It is a fraction. The coefficient is a fraction. But we've already dealt with that, right? In lesson 1, we talked about solving equations with rational coefficients, and a fraction is rational. And what did we do when we had a coefficient that was a fraction? We multiplied by the, who can remember? Word that is hard to say? Everybody say multiplicative inverse. Very good. All right, so let's take care of the addition subtraction first, which is they're subtracting 3, so what am I going to do? Add 3. Good job, Kaylee. Add 3 to both sides, and I have 28 on this side equals 1/4 n, because these are going to take care of each other. Now, what did we learn about taking care of a fraction that is a coefficient? We have to multiply by the, say it again, Tay. Very good, multiplicative inverse, which means I'm going to multiply by what? What's the multiplicative inverse or the reciprocal of 1/4? 4 or 4/1, right? So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4/1. Okay? By multiplying this by 4/1, this 1/4 times 4/1 equals 1, right? They cancel out by equaling 1, and that leaves me with n. Now I have 4/1 times 28. We could put that over 1 if it helps. What is 28 times 4? 112 over 1, so n equals 112. So the only thing that was different in this case is we had our fraction, and so we multiplied by that multiplicative inverse to try and get rid of the fractions. Now, if you wanted to, you could simply, if you're using a calculator that did fractions, you could divide both sides by 1/4 if you wanted to. You would get the same answer. If you prefer to do that, you can, right? So if you like multiplicative inverse, use that. If you don't mind dividing by fractions, you may do that. All right? Let's do one more example. All right, let's take a look at this one. Once again, right away, you should notice that we have what as a coefficient? What do we have as a coefficient? A fraction, okay? So let's go ahead and just start taking care of this one. What's the first thing I'm going to do? The math dude says, as a rule of thumb, what do we try and take care of first? The addition and subtraction. Excellent job, Emily. So the opposite of adding 2 would be what? Subtracting 2. And if I subtract 2 from one side, I have to subtract 2 from the other side. So 2 minus 2 will cancel out. If we have -4 and we go 2 more negative, what am I going to end up with? -6. So I've got -6 equals 1/3 z. Okay? Now, how am I going to get rid of the 1/3? I can divide both sides by 1/3 if I want to do it that way. Or I can multiply by the multiplicative inverse. Someone tell me, what's the multiplicative inverse or the reciprocal of 1/3? Bianca? 3/1. So I'm going to multiply by 3/1 there, and I also have to multiply by 3/1 here. So this cancels out because 3/1 times 1/3 equals 1. So 1z is the same as z. And then 3/1 times -6, and we can put that over 1 if it helps. What's -3 times negative 6. We've got negative 18 over 1 because 1 times 1 is 1. And we end up with z equals negative 18. All right? And once we have that negative 18, don't forget, in order to check if you're correct, we're going to take that negative 18 and go ahead and substitute it in for z and solve it to see if we were correct. Are there any questions on example 2? So the main difference between example 1 and example 2 is example 2 has a fraction as a coefficient. Go ahead and try got its C and D underneath example 2. Got its C and D.